Hello everybody, welcome to this session on object styles. If you haven't checked out the video on intro to styles yet, please go check that out first. As we mentioned in the last video, we represent all of our Civil 3D objects using styles. So whether it's a surface or a point or a profile, whatever it is, those things are being displayed using styles. We try not to use layers, we use styles, and all of our styles are stored under the settings tab. So you can see that in the settings tab we have our different features broken down into different categories. There's multiple types of styles that you can work with. Today we're going to talk about points or object styles. So object styles mean the actual physical features. So we're not labeling anything, we're just displaying things like a surface using a contour, or a point using a X, or a profile with this type of a grid. So those are what we call object styles. Label styles are when we actually go to label that feature. We'll talk about that in another video. Now the good thing about styles is that once you know how one style works, for instance point styles, it pretty much applies to all the other features, whether it's a parcel or grading style or alignment style, whatever. So let's check out the different object styles here. So in the point section, I've got point styles. That's my point object. I can expand that out, and here's all the different styles that are listed in this drawing. So these points that I see on my screen can be represented using any one of these styles listed here. And so how do we want to set that up? So let's go into what's currently being displayed. You'll see there's a little triangle right here under this object style called basic. That little yellow triangle means that that style is being used somewhere in the drawing. So wherever you see that, whether it's under a label style or under a different object like a surface style, they're being used to apply to a certain object. So let's go check out how this particular basic point style works. So I can either right click on it and go edit, or I can double click on that point style and it'll pop up this little dialog box here with a certain number of different tabs. The first one is just the basic information, but here we go into the second tab called marker. This marker tab describes on how that point's going to be displayed. So in this case, it looks like we can use a AutoCAD point marker or a custom marker, or we could use an AutoCAD block. So we've got all these three different choices. If you have regular AutoCAD blocks stored in this drawing, you can come down here and choose something, one of those blocks to represent that particular point. Or we could use a custom marker where we can use any one of these different configurations here to describe our point. And lastly, we'd use just a regular point marker, with just a single point. Those are a little bit hard to see, wouldn't recommend that. We'll stick with just a regular custom marker for now. All right, let's come over here and check out how we're going to size these markers. So in this case, I currently have a drawing scale set. What that means is that that point marker is going to be sized to 2.5 millimeters high on the plot. That's in paper space, and that's regardless of what your plot scale is going to be. So regardless if you're plotting on paper or digital print, and regardless of the plot scale, those point markers always come out at 2.5 mils. That's a really handy option because then you don't have to worry about how that point's going to be sized, regardless of your plotting scales. The other option is you can go to a fixed scale. So you can say, I want my point to be this big, and then you set in your fixed scale here, and then it gets scaled, represented on the numbers you put in the X and Y values here. The other option is you can use an absolute unit. So if you use absolute units, that means, notice the units change to meters, and that means that in model space, your points will always be measured 2.5 millimeters or 2.5 meters across. The last option is relative to screen. So this means at 2.5%, regardless of how I'm zoomed in and out of my screen in model space, after I do a regen, that point will size to be 2.5% of the drawing screen window. But we're going to set this back to drawing scale again. So that's how that works. Let's pop over to the 3D geometry tab. We'll skip through that for now. And in the display tab, here's where you can turn on certain options. So you can control how that point is going to look. This is a little bit different in points because you can turn the label off here. If you turn that little light bulb off, if you got a certain label style assigned that's displayable, then you can turn it off here if you want. So you have that option. You can also set the layers in this point style, and I know in the last session I told you that we try not to use layers for any of these Civil 3D objects, but sometimes you have to, because a lot of times these drawings from Civil 3D end up in AutoCAD user hands, and AutoCAD users do not have access to styles, so they have to still show these objects using a certain way, and they'll still go back to the old school way of using layers. So you can change up your layers there if you have layer standards and stuff you have to abide by, and then you can set the colors and other things like that. And you got a little summary tab over here that you can go and review all that stuff. So once you got a style set out, you can pop over into your Prospector tab and you can change up the style if you like. So for instance, if I go into my All Points point group and I right click on it and go into Properties, I can switch up that style that's being displayed right now. There's that basic style. And I could go ahead and switch that up to something like, for instance, a catch basin, for instance. You'll notice that all these points now turn to that style. So that's how easy it is to change up object styles. Thanks for watching, and check out the next session on how to label these objects. Thanks. Bye for now.